In this video, we're going to go ahead and download and install IntelliJ IDEA for a Linux machine. Specifically, we're going to be installing it on Ubuntu 15.04. So firstly, I'm going to go into my Firefox. I'm going to go to the JetBrains website. Like so, jetbrains.com. Then I'm going to select products when I get there. I'm going to choose IntelliJ IDEA. Click that. Let's close this little thing down the bottom of Firefox there. And I click on Get IntelliJ IDEA now. And it should automatically detect that we're on a Linux platform and give us the links to download the Linux version of IntelliJ IDEA. So when you get to this screen, you're presented with two options. You've got the Ultimate Edition, which has got a free 30-day trial, or you've got a Community Edition, which is going to be free. At the end of the 30-day trial, if you do look at the Ultimate Edition, you will need to pay for that. So what I'm going to do to make things easier, I'm just going to install the Community Edition, which is free, but do consider checking out the Ultimate Edition because there's a free 30-day trial there and has got heaps of extra features. With that said, either version will work fine for this course. You don't necessarily need the features in the Ultimate Edition. So I'm going to click on Download Community. That's going to start the download, or it'll come up with a dialog box and ask me what I want to do. So I'm just going to save it to my Downloads folder. Then that's finished. I'm going to go to my files, go to my downloads folder. I've got IntelliJ there, which is the C stands for the Community Edition. So the next thing to do is to decide where do you want this installed. On my computer, I've already created a folder a subfolder from my home folder called dev, and I actually want to put the files in there. So to do that, I'm just going to double click. That's going to open it up in the extractor, and I'm going to navigate to the folder where I want to put the files. In this case, I've got a dev folder, which is a subfolder from my main home folder, and I've got some other things in there from a previous course that I did. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to drag over this folder from the extraction tool, and that should put those files in there, and that's done, as you can see. So I'm going to close it off. So next I'm going to open Terminal. What we need to do is just start up the installation. So I've got terminal selected there, so you can just type TERM. This is enough to find terminal. Select that. Now we need to navigate to the folder that contains those files, which of course is the dev subfolder from my home folder. So I'm going to type cd space ~dev/IDE should be enough, and that comes up with, and when I press tab with the rest of the folder, press enter. Type ls to list the file contents, or directory contents I should say. Now I need to go into the bin folder, cd space bin, and list the folders of files and folders again. And we've got a file in there called idea.sh. So I'm going to type /idea.sh, which will start the installation for IDEA, IntelliJ IDEA. Now when you're loading up for the first time, you've got the option to import settings if you've got a previous version of IntelliJ, or to just not, you haven't got a previous version and you don't want to import anything. So I'm going to select the second option. I do not have a previous version of IntelliJ IDEA. Click OK. And next it's going to pop up and ask a few other questions about themes and so forth. So as you can see, the first question that's asking is, what theme do you want to set? Now my personal favorite is the Darkular. If I click on that, you can see it's got a dark background and the text is lighter, and it's really good. You know, if you're staring at a screen, as programmers we tend to do that for hours at a time, it's better on the eyes, I find. It's my personal opinion, but it does come down to what your opinion is as to which one you want to select. That said, that's my favorite, but I'm going to go back and choose IntelliJ, and the reason for that is that comes up better on the videos. But you can choose whichever one you want. And the other thing to note is in your settings at a later point, if you want to change this, settings, and then a sub option appearance and behavior, then a sub option again, appearance. That is where you can go and change that at some future point. So I'm going to click on next. Do we want to create a desktop entry? Well, yes, we do. Instead of having to go to a command line to start the tool, let's create that desktop entry. You could optionally select for all users if you wanted to, all users on this machine. I don't need to do that. I'm just going to click on leave the first option selected. And again, you can recreate these later by going to the Tools menu and selecting Create Desktop Entry. Click on Next now. Now, one of the things that IntelliJ does well is it supports a lot of different Java frameworks. You know, JBoss, but also build tools like Ant, supports web development, and lots of other things, even Android development. So that's one of the flexibilities of using Java as a language, is that you've got so many different choices, and IntelliJ gives you the options of supporting all those tools depending on what you want to do. So you can by all means go in and change any of these things, add or remove. I'm going to leave everything as the default, and of course, like everything, you can always go back later and choose different options if you want to. But I'm just going to click on next. There's a couple of other options there that optionally we can install. I'm not going to install those plugins for those because we're not going to be using ID Vim or Scalar. But again, down here, you've got the options later to go into settings and then to plugins, and you can actually update this later. So I'm going to click on start using IntelliJ IDEA. That should load it up. So once we're loaded, there's a couple of other little minor configuration things we need to finish off. So click on configure down here at the bottom right of the screen. Go down to project defaults, click that, and then select project structure. What we need to do is we need to configure the project SDK, which will actually be the Java development kit that you've hopefully installed in the previous video. If you haven't got the Java development kit installed, go back and actually do that and make sure that you've installed the latest version as shown in the previous video for Linux. So assuming you have, you can actually click on New. We want to click on JDK. And what should happen automatically, as you saw there, I didn't need to click anything else. IntelliJ actually went down and found the folders where it thought the Java development kit was installed. You just need to select the Java 8 one. Well, I'm selecting the second one there. But either of those should work. And if you do have a problem, select one or the other ones. But in my case, I'm going to select the bottom one. And again, if you haven't installed the Java development kit as per the previous video, you're probably not getting this option and you need to go back and do that. So I'm going to select that second one, click OK. You can see this up here is now changed. Now it's actually showing us that the OpenJDK version 1.8 is now selected. And that's going to be the project or the Java development kit that we're going to be using for our projects moving forward. Last thing we need to do now is make sure the project language level, we need to select that, select 8, which is basically JDK 8. And what that's saying is it's because this course is all about the latest version of Java, we want to make sure that we're supporting the features that have been brought in other versions. The default option was version 6, JDK 6. So if we didn't select this version 8, we wouldn't be able to use some of those features, or they'd give errors in our code. So we're selecting 8, lambdas, type, annotations. So don't worry too much about what that means at this stage. Just know that you need to select that, click OK, and what that does is that defaults all new projects that we'll be creating in subsequent videos in this course to use that latest version. So at this point, you're actually now completed with the installation of IntelliJ. So I'm going to close that down, close down some of these other windows, and I'll even close down the browser. So in future, to get access to IntelliJ, you can just click on here and just type in IntelliJ now. And because we've now got an icon, we selected the desktop icon, we can now start it just by a simple click and starting IntelliJ, and that should start up for us automatically. So that's it. You can now move on to the next section of the course where we'll actually be talking about creating our very first Java application. So I will see you in that video.